Hello friends, let us create a Windows application using C++ in today's class. First I have opened a solution, empty solution, and then I am going to add a C++ Windows project, Windows desktop application. Okay, keep it with the default name. As soon as you complete the widget, you get few files and a huge code, right? Now let's run it, and we get a windowed application without writing any code by our own hand. Okay, now understanding this piece of code may be little overwhelming. I'm not going to explain this at this moment, but what I can tell you, this code is not object oriented. Okay, now these are using these four global functions. Okay, and there is a one win main application or win main function, sorry, and we are calling those global functions from the WinMain, like my registered application, registered class, and all this stuff. Now here they have declared, on top of WinMain, they have declared those functions, and below uh, the WinMain, they have defined those functions. Okay. Now what I want to do, now there are also some extra header files like those ones. Okay. Now we will see if we can minimize those things and what should we do or not. Anyway, so let's start from here. Okay, what I want to do, let's see, select all using Control A and collapse all of them. Okay, now as we see, so this is WinMain, and above those global functions declaration, and below defined. Now first I want to split it. Split means what? I want to create a header file where I want to move these declarations, and in a corresponding CPP I want to move those definitions. Let us first try that. Okay, so what I will do, I'll be adding a header file. I can give it header.h for now. We probably rename it later, we'll see. And for that, in that what we will do, we'll move, mm, I am not sure whether I will move all of them. Okay, let's, what is this? Okay, let move all of those stuff from here to the header. Okay, let's do that first thing. Okay, next I want all of these definitions to be moved from here to where. So I have to create a corresponding source file, right? A CPP file. Let me create a CPP file. Okay, CPP file. I have pasted it. Okay, just give me a minute. So I'm getting few errors, right? So what I have to do, I have to probably include the header file here as include this header.h. Once I give this header file, this will be resolved. Okay, now at this stage WinMain uh, has some issues. I can now include the WinMain here as well. Okay, I can include this WinMain here as well. Now at this stage it should at least build and run. Let's see, it is having some problem. We'll see what is the problem. Okay, let's see what is the problem. I am getting few linking error. Okay, so let us clean solution, rebuild, and I am getting some linking issues. Okay, so how can I resolve it? So this is the linking issues, not compilation issues. Okay, how to resolve them? First, do one thing. Don't do anything in the main. Just comment it out. I don't want anything from here. If I run it, Still there is one issue, four issues still there. Okay, no problem. Mm, H instance. H instance. Those are the problems. Okay, so I have to step by step solve it. Let me close all of this. I have already done it once, but I don't want to show you the ready-made code. I want to do it in front of you. That's why it may take a little bit longer time. And you know that I have previously have solved it in a different way. Now I'm trying to do it in a different way. Now what I want to achieve, first of all, I want to actually mm, make a class, and to make a class, and the class name may be anything, but for now I can make it a C view class, or I can make it Q view, like to map it like Qt or whatever. C view, no problem. View class or C view. Now let's move all of those stuff from here to here. So it is now not global functions. Those are all class member functions and class member variables of this class. Now by default, all these are private in this CPU, because by default all are private. Now I want to call those classes. I'm not sure whether I am going to call them from outside or inside. Simplicity, let them make it public, and later we will refactor the codes so that those are not required to call from outside. We'll make them private. Those who are necessary to call from outside, only those will keep them public. Otherwise, everything will be private. Now, this is the one thing. Now, in the now this is header. So instead of header, I should rename it to CView. If the class name, the class that I have defined in this header, CView, then I should rename it to CView, right? It is better. I name it to CView, number one. And the source file, I, I am going to define those things here. So let's rename it to cview.cpp as well. Okay, number one. And the header file is also that I have to include cview.h. Okay, number one. Next, the class name is cview, and those functions are actually part of that class, right? This is the definition of the functions declared in the cview class. So I have to, those are the declaration, I have to define them in this. So how can I tell that this function definition is the function definition of the cview class? So that's why class name and then double colon, right? That way I can do it. Now, right now I have 8 errors. I am trying to minimize those. Let's see. I can see there is an error. We will try to find it. How can we resolve it? Next again, this way. This is the, that way I'm trying to actually achieve this one. Okay. Now if I try to build it, I have 4 errors. At least I have improved, right? Now what can I do? This Windows proc. See, this Windows proc, actually what it is saying, cview pointer, something like that. And okay, window proc. So what can I do? So this is actually mm, its own window proc. Window proc, this function. Let me try it using static. If I make it static, at least that has been solved. And that also I want to make it static. 2 issue solved header, and I have to give C view actually. Okay, C view 3 issue solved, and this one. So this one also I have to actually declare as static. So I hope the audience of this video knows what is static. Now, as you know, for the static one, I have to actually write this piece of code here. Just give me 1 minute. Equal to null, something like that. And if I do that, oh my god, no, not static, and it will be part of this view. Okay, so this is this one. Yeah, so this is the data type, and this is the, and I should be able to run it at this stage. Oh, nothing is happening, but at least there is no compilation issues or link issues, right? Now I have to actually uncomment this piece of codes, right? Only then it will run. So at least at this stage my project is building successfully. Now I have to uncomment few of them, right? So that my Windows runs actually. Okay, uncomment it. And when I do that, obviously there will be errors and we have to resolve it. Now init instance, how can I do a init instance? So what I will do, I will I will create an object to do place code here. Okay, I have to create an object of CView. CView view, only view. Okay, I have object I have created. Now if I have created this object, I have to call this function, and this function is actually supposed to be called on this. Okay, now what are those? We'll come to later on those two things. I'll come to those on later. uh, what I can do, these two thing I can move, I can move those two things to the, did I made any constructor here? No, I did not made any constructor, so better let me make some constructor. Okay, C view, and I can do those two things in this. And now what is this H instance? Now it does not know what is H instance, but it need these two things, right? So H instance I can take as an input here. I can take this as an input here, and I can keep this, I can keep this for future usage. I can keep it for future usage. Now this is happy because it gets this one, right? uh, is it possible to build it? Okay, default constructor, yeah. So in this case I have to pass that init instance to that init instance. I have to pass it. Now if I pass it, this my registered class, then I don't need this H instance to be passed here, right? Because this class already have this one. So if they already have this one, I actually don't need this to be passed here. But in case if you want to pass, you can still pass it. But basically, you don't want to need to pass it. But I'm trying to understand, if I'm already passing it here, uh, so can I make it? So let me refactor it. I don't want to do all this stuff. I don't want, if I don't want to do this stuff here, instead if I want to do it in a registered class itself here, right? Because I'm already getting this, I'm doing this. In that case, what will happen, I don't need to do this, and I don't need to pass it also, and in fact I don't need this CView constructor at all. So in that case I don't need to actually pass this. That is enough for me. So why this one? uh, okay, so I just create the object of CView and construct it. Okay, so init instance. So what is init instance? So init instance will be on the view, right? So init instance will be on the view, because init instance we have already declared the public of this, right? So far so good. If I run it, there is, I see the window. That's it. Now I have been able to create a object oriented framework with the CView class. Now what is this? Now this is supposed to a application class. So far we have created only CView class. Now can we make a application class? Let's try it. Let's make a class CWin app, and inside that I make a I make some public function, say run. Run is a function that will return void. Okay, and whatever is this, I will move everything from here to the run, and as I see it is returning some integer, I will move it to integer so that run can so what I will do now, this requires an 8-inch H instance. I will have to see how can I pass H instance here, but basically I will be creating an object, say app or WinApp or whatever it is, and then app.run, right? If I can run that, it will work. Now if I execute it, I am getting an error. It does not find this H instance. Now how can I give this H instance? Either I can give this H instance to the run application here, and in that case it will run. Let's try that. Okay, uh, or otherwise I can actually pass it during its construction. I can pass this during its construction, and it will store as a local, sorry, class member variable in the definition of CMove, this one, and it should have a constructor. It should have a constructor. Now this video is assuming that the audience of this video knows object-oriented programming well, and that's why they can relate or understand this piece of code. Okay, otherwise a normal C++ learner will not be able to understand this. Okay, so if you are new to C++ programming, go back, learn C++ first, and then come back. If we run it, we are able to get it. Now what we are doing, so step by step we are making then that object-oriented programming. So at this stage this is little bit cleaner, but I want to make it more smaller, right? Now these two lines, why these two lines are required? This is saying, as I have not used this variable and this variable, this variable and this variable are not used anywhere. This one and this one are used here and here, right? But these two are not used. That's why we are saying unreferenced parameter these two, so that it does not give us some warning. Once I remove that, probably it will give us some warning. To avoid those warning, we have to give it. Now here we have created a view and we have created an application. Now I want this CView is not part of the application. This CView is not part of the application at this stage. It is creating separately, right? I want that this view should be part of the application. That's why I will move this class as a part of uh, CWinApp. Now this is a what can I say? This CView object is contained inside CWinApp. Now obviously now it cannot, this variable is not found. Now where should I register it? So where should I register it? The best way to register it in its constructor. So I will initialize it inside the constructor of this. I can try that. Okay, uh, but so I have to check whether this is, I have to check whether this is possible or not. Next, I will do this part. I will do this part here. So as soon as the object gets created, this should do. But the problem is there are two problems, as you see, right? There are two problems. First of all, this CMD show is not available. So for that, I have to pass this CMD show in the constructor. Let's do it first. Okay, let's do it first. So in the constructor, I have to pass this because it is required there, and this thing I have to give it to the constructor as well, so that I can use it here. So this is one problem, I resolved it. Another problem is constructor cannot return, because we know constructor don't return anything, in not even a void. So that's why it cannot return. Okay. So what can I do? I can create a separate init instance function which returns an integer inside the CWin app itself, and I can move it from here to here. Init instance, I can move it to here. Now in that case, if I'm doing it, let's register also inside init instance only. Why I have to register it in the constructor? Anyway, I can do it here also, but CMD show is not available. So what I can do, I can keep a data member like this one uh, as a class data member, and then I can do this. I can store this one in a class data member, and later I can use it. Now if I run it, oh my god, I cannot see anything. The application is running but no window. So what is the issue? Let us debug it. So there is no compilation error, no linking error. Only thing, the window is not working. So this init instance, so what we are doing, we have just created the application and run it, but we have not the init instance. That may be the problem. Init instance, we have not done that. Okay. Now if I do that, the window I can get and it can close properly. Now here what we are doing, we are creating the object, doing the init instance and then running it, right? Instead of that, if I can create the init instance automatically from the constructor, if I create the init instance automatically from the constructor, if I can create the init instance automatically from the constructor, then I don't have to explicitly call it, right? Then in 2 lines it can run. Done. Now I am running the application from outside. Instead of that, if I run just after the init instance is completed, if I run it, then I don't have to explicitly run it from here. Just create the object and boom, your application is running in a single line of code. Done. Okay, now what I will do, I can create a separate cwin .h and cwin app.cpp, and I can move the code from here to, so that my this main file have less code. For that, what I will do, I will create a separate header file. I will create a separate header file, new header file with that name cwin-app.h, and move this piece of code, cut and paste here. Okay, that is number one. Next, what I will do, I will create another cpp file. I'll create another cpp file, add new cpp file, and name that this one cpp. This will, I will include, first of all, include I has include cwin app winap.h. If we include that, now why there is an error? Because okay, so this should be uh, let me cut it as include cwinap.h. I'm creating the object of cwinap, that's why, and inside that I have to include this one, and it should build everything successfully, and yes, I can run it. So as you see in this project, I have only one is the comment, you can remove it. I have to just include one header file in the win main and create the object of that, and I can show a window in a single line of code. Now if inside that there are lots of stuff which is hidden at this stage from the caller of the uh, caller of this or creator of this object, so that is win main. So everything is abstracted, anything, any detailed way how the object is application is created, how the window is shown, all these details are hidden from the caller or win main, right? So that is called abstraction. So I hope you understand how we can make a project which was using global functions. We can wrap them in object oriented uh, classes, so that we have two separate classes, right? One is cview class and one is cwinap class, and each are uh, consuming all the global functions as their uh, class member functions. I have not changed the business logic. I have just changed the code is organized in a object oriented approach, and we are getting the same result, right? Yes, we can here add new menus and all this, that can be done. In the next class, probably I can go through the code step by step into debugging, but I think for this video, this is enough. Thank you.